mid-1780s, Thomas Jefferson said, "Every generation needs a new revolution." What a perfect book title. That is the title to my new book, and it is on the generations. Every generation since the very beginning of time has wanted to identify themselves or set themselves apart. Thomas could really have been talking about the boomers in the 60s, right? I believe that understanding and acceptance is the only way to find peaceful coexistence in the home, in the workplace, and all points in between. We are living longer, more productive lives, and there are many more of us in the workplace. How do we do this? How do we make sure that everyone gets along, everyone gets the job done, and everyone can work as a team? That is the question. In the workforce, sometimes 3, 4, and yes, even 5 generations are working in the same office. These people are working together, yet they don't really understand each other at all. After all, they have their own beliefs, their own values, their own heroes, and their own villains. Once again, we must understand who we are working with. If a manager can take each of these very distinctive groups and put them all together, but understand how they think, how they learn, and how they produce, then he's got something to work for. And there is a lot of information about this in my book. In my presentations and workshops, I see a lot of misunderstandings. We must learn to talk about who we are and what we think. What makes us who we are, and how do we learn? Don't be afraid to talk about it. We all do different things. Take a look at the silents. They're the older generation now in the workforce. But they didn't grow up with computers. They're not technologically savvy, but there is a phenomenal amount of experience behind these people. Then you get a Gen Y into the office, and that just makes a big mess. Unless a manager can understand that they communicate by text messaging and give them a laptop and a BlackBerry, and they'll do their job from the beach. But they're not going to buy into the old cubicle environment. Multi-generational households can be a real challenge. Let's say you've got 3, 4, 5 generations under the same roof, and you're part of the sandwich generation. That's someone who is caring for parents and for children as well. My gosh, what a mess you could have. You may think moving mom or dad into the home is the easy solution. Maybe, maybe not. My strong suggestion on this is to have a family conference before any moving is ever done. Today's society is changing, and changing at a very fast pace. We need to understand one another, whether it be work, whether it be home, or whether it be all points in between. Unless we live in a cave, we do deal with other generations every time we step out of our front door. If you don't tread carefully, it can be somewhat akin to navigating shark-infested waters. This is the problem, and this is why communication is important. Just think of how much you could learn by just getting along with someone from another generation. Let's take an example. A child teaching grandma how to send her a text message. Or turn that around, grandma showing a child what the old movies, what the old pictures used to look like. Teach them some history, but there's got to be that talking. We have all walked in the shoes of our younger children. And at some point, we will be walking in the shoes of our elders. Stop and think and put yourself in their place. How would you feel if you were talking down to them or dismissing them because they were either too young or too old to get your point? This is where the talking and the understanding comes from. In the book, I talk about who they are, what made them who they are, and what the factors are that really best brings them out. So before you make snap judgments on anyone, before you look at someone and just because she or he has purple spiky hair, a ring in his nose, and a whole bunch of tattoos on her neck, stop and think of what's behind all of that. Because boomers were trying to get into the workforce wearing granny glasses and love beads, and at one point the unheard of long hair on men. Are the youth of today any different? Every Generation Needs a New Revolution can be obtained on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or on my website, www.lifepathsolutions.biz. And while you're on the website, take a look at my workshops in a box on this subject. I think you'll learn something there too.